My next guest on Tea Time is Jill Watson, yoga teacher and healer who changed her life to seek one that is more aligned. She has been on a journey from Aberdeen to London and has since been developing her practice at Wasing Park in Berkshire. She shares some of her spiritual beliefs and her work, which is based on the premise to be kind to yourself. It was so amazing to catch up with Jill this week, as she really is at one with nature and likes to go forest bathing. She also gives some great tips in this podcast to keep us all calm. Jill has practiced for 10 years and even picked up a healing technique from James Catto, founder of popular group Faithless. Let's find out more. Welcome, Jill, to Tea Time with me, Ali Monjack. How are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you.
Good. Well, you're looking well, aren't you?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm feeling good. Do you know what? I've been in the lake this morning.
Fab. So you've been doing a bit of, what is it called, wild water swimming, or what do you call it?
Yeah,
Forest bathing?
I think we call it wild swimming. We don't really swim for very long. It's more like go in until you can kind of stand your fingertips freezing and then jump out again and get warm as soon as possible. It seems to be really good for the skin, and it's, yeah.
I should imagine, is it putting like lots of oxygen in places that it needs to put oxygen?
Do you know what? I'm going to say yes. Like, I haven't gone about fully researching this one. Some people have geeked out on the wild swimming trend, and obviously Wim Hof is the guy that's kind of setting the trend. I was listening to a bit of his podcast with Russell Brand, and he's really got the science like tripping off his tongue. But one thing I do know is like the color of your skin when you come out of the water is bright red. So I think it kind of like, you know, all the blood like goes to your vital organs, so it leaves your skin, and which I'm sure is why you end up feeling brilliant for the rest of the day, because it's like you get some sort of organ purification thing going. So
right.
Yeah. Here's to wild swimming.
Cool. Yeah, forget the detox tea. Let's all go wild swimming.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't even have to swim, do you? Because probably like you, I'd probably dip in a toe and that would be it.
Yeah, well, a friend came down with me today, and she kind of got in, lost a shoe, was in for like 30 seconds and was like, I'm getting out. I sort of paddle around a little bit and try and build up how long I'm staying in for, but it's just, yeah, it's over and done with like that, but it makes you just feel really sparky.
Alive,
so alive.
Oh, so alive. Oh, bless you. No, well, that's good, and it's really good to be talking to you, because I mean, obviously, you know, for a lot of us, we're in basically our third month of lockdown, really, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the rules have been, really. It's just kind of, I think I intuitively felt after November's or around November lockdown time that nothing much was going to really get going again until, well, yeah, it's been hard to guess, but I think I sort of was feeling that January might be a bit out of the game. Out of the outer world game, not out of the game, just out of the outer world game.
Yeah, so on the inner world game, I mean, you know, you must be inundated. I know you're not obviously allowed to give live yoga classes anymore, and you're having to do a lot over the internet, but you must be inundated with people asking you about well-being.
Yeah, do you know what? I've kind of all through last year, there was kind of a core of people that, you know, I think they were like, right, I just know I need this in my week. And there's equally lots of other people that have found it really hard to kind of find the timing to commit to anything, especially feel for parents at the moment, because, you know, if they are at home with kids and homeschooling, even though they're dying to kind of take care of their own well-being, the last thing they want to do is spend an hour on Zoom with me at the end of a day that's already been on Zoom with their kids' homework. So I mean, there's lots you can do in small chunks as well. But yeah, I think I'm just keeping in touch with people personally as well, just to find out how they are and seeing them when they can make it to classes, whether that's super regularly or more ad hoc, because people are just doing what they can at the moment, I think.
I mean, you're a great lover of nature as well, aren't you? I mean, you've done yoga outside, you've done all sorts of things, and now you're wild water swimming, which I think I'll just leave to you.
Yeah, it's
I'm a
funny
little
that.
bit lily-livered.
Huh?
I said I'm a little bit lily-livered. I think, oh goodness, I'll go out for a walk or a jog, as I call it, in the,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
the fresh
yeah.
air. So the jog is a walk and then a jog, and a walk and then a
Oh, I
jog.
like it. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
it.
it's not a full run, but yeah. So
Brilliant, brilliant blend. Yeah, no, nature is just. I mean, it's medicine. It's. I mean, I grew up in the countryside, and feel so lucky to be locked down where I am with plenty, fields and gardens and woodland and lakes. Yeah, it's a blessing, really. So, I've kind of started running again the last couple of months. I think because the nights have obviously been getting a little longer, and you're kind of in your house by 5 o'clock, so you're sort of thinking, oh, hang on a minute. In the summer, obviously, you can go outside in the evening, and we were teaching classes in the walled garden last year, outdoors, in the beautiful sunsets, but once you come into the winter, that disappears, and you think, oh, hang on, I need to get out in the morning or midday or afternoon. So I've been running and walking and while swimming, and we had a little garden going last year, but we're kind of, I guess, in a little winter lull with that at the moment. Should get down there and start digging a couple of patches ready for the spring veg to go in soon as well.
Oh, lovely. I mean, you really are the real deal, aren't you, as far as health and well-being is concerned. So let's just sort of take it away from lockdown for a moment. And I mean, I know the story, but how did you manage to end up miles away from home in Scotland, in a beautiful place, mind you? Wasing Park is absolutely beautiful, and end up being basically a local sort of a bit of a yoga guru, really, aren't you? And, well-being person.
What did a little parcel arrived on my doorstep the other day, like a late Christmas present that was labelled JW Yoga Buff with little kind of like Scrabble letters. So I think I prefer that to guru. I don't know what that means, but anyway, yeah, the yogi, known as kind of, I guess, bringing some of the threads of inspiration from that world to the locals. How did I end up here? Gosh, Ali, I mean, do you want the short answer to that, or do you want the whole kind of like?
Yeah, well, I want the whole lot. Why not? I think it's important that people should know as well at the moment, because life does take you on a journey, as we've discussed previously. And
Sure.
life really took you on a journey, didn't it?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, everybody's on some sort of journey, whether they're kind of choosing to consciously be with that and let it unfold, or whether stuff is just kind of hitting them and happening to them. I think we all have periods of both, maybe going on. Gosh, so I've been teaching yoga now since 2012, and I kind of wrap up the yoga chapter in this 10-year, 2010 to 2020. Oh gosh, it's 2021 now. The last 10 years really of my life has been quite deeply infused with yoga, and it came about quite accidentally, just meeting a teacher in Aberdeen that I just fell in love with how she was working, and it made me feel really connected to myself in a different way. And I can come back to the sort of that chapter, but before that, I mean, I studied German at Aberdeen University. I thought I was going to go into, at one point I was like, I'm going to go into broadcast journalism, I'm going to go and do a postgrad degree in broadcast journalism. So, at one point I might have ended up on the other side of the on the other side of this interview.
Me.
And I have dabbled with it a couple of times, but that idea kind of went out the window, and I sort of worked for a local business up in Aberdeen, and then I travelled for a year in between, and then I sort of found the kind of life dissatisfaction was creeping in. Hadn't really thought about what I wanted to do and whether that felt very aligned. probably words I wouldn't have used back then, but stuff feeling aligned on a like energetic level, emotional level. So yeah, I kind of came back, was a bit muddled and lost, and that's where I met this yoga teacher, and that weekly class gave me a lot of comfort, and it sort of inspired me to just begin to explore life again and get a bit more curious about, oh, what will happen if I try a bit of this, and what will happen if I try a bit of this, and I think I always had that curiosity in me, but I also had at that time quite a vocal naysayer. So like part of my inner mentality that was like, what would happen if I do a bit of this? And then something going, oh, you can't do that because it's a really stupid, and like, just there wasn't like an inner support system going on. When I felt like going in a certain direction, it would almost like I would shut the ideas down almost immediately. So there was like a bit of a sluggishness, or you might say, one foot on the accelerator, one foot on the brake, that horrible place where you think, oh, this isn't really going anywhere. And it can be a bit of a loop of frustration, that, because you feel like there's some potential there, but it's not going anywhere, and you start to perhaps turn on yourself. So yeah, this kind of led to a lot of anxiety in the last few years of my 20s, which yoga really supported me with. And I'm a Virgo star sign, which apparently means a lot of things, but lots of other Virgos that I've met, including myself, we get quite, I guess, geeked out on the whole personal development thing. So I started kind of, yeah, oh, are you? Oh, great, brilliant. So I started geeking out on the books, I started geeking out on the yoga practices. It felt really good to move my body with awareness, and it seemed to open up, or to kind of crack through some of that foggy, like, you can't do this part of me, that seemed to just sort of tone out or move to the background a little bit. And then I felt a bit freer to just have a bit of fun and go and make choices from there. So it went Aberdeen to skiing in the Austrian Alps, to taking a job in London, to doing the yoga teacher training, to doing coach training, to having a great 6-7 years in London, and then being like, okay, my country bumpkin self is calling, where can I go that's got fields and still romp around doing my yoga stuff. And just by grace of timing, there was the couple that owned the estate had placed an ad saying, we want a yoga instructor to come and live and be on site and set up the studio. So yeah, divine timing with the move to here. Yeah, very grateful to be here.
Fantastic. No, I mean, it's such an amazing place, and I love coming to visit you. I have actually endured a whole run round Wasing Park.
You didn't do Endure 24, did you?
I did Endure 24. I really, really got
in a team, or
no. This was the thing. It was Chris Sumner, cheeky Chris Sumner. I interviewed him because he also does the Berkshire 10K. So I interviewed him, probably a couple of months before that. And I'd started to get to know him with, my local job in TV. And I met his partner was there as well. And he was going, oh, yeah, no, you should really, really, run for charity. And because I happened to mention that the charity they were supporting a couple of years ago was Living Paintings.
Oh, yeah.
I happened to mention that I'd just been there to do an interview about some other project that they were doing. And he was like, oh, yes, well, no, I think you could really support that charity. I'm challenging you to run, 5 miles, which is actually 8K. Now, I'd never even run a mile before.
Brilliant.
I said, Chris, I can't do this, and I didn't want to let the charity down. So cut to next scene. I started training, doing a jog through another friend of mine, said, look, do a jog, which is a run and a walk, and build up from there. So I did. And I have to say, one of the things that kept me going that day was the actual fact that it's just beautiful through the woods and through. I just, where's this going now?
Yeah. It does. So, sort of it lures you out. I mean, I live on the estate, so I kind of look out the window and see the farm, and I can sort of see the tops of the trees from my living room window. And if I'm here feeling like the outdoors is calling, I just kind of look out the window and go, okay, yeah. And then I have to just sort of scuttle downstairs and get out there, because it feels too like, whereas I think if you can't see it, it's easier to kind of think, oh, well, that might be a bit of an effort. And but yeah, no, the running's good. Have you stuck with it then, Ali? Have you stuck with some running?
I have stuck with a bit of running, so yeah.
Chris, yes, well done, Chris.
Well done, Chris. I'm thanking him now. I wasn't at the time, but it made me be able to get some sponsorship money for living painting. So
yeah,
I felt quite achieved in more ways than one.
Well
and what an achievement, literally. So that's good. So, I mean, you basically now have really established, haven't you, doing yoga and lots of well-being classes up at Waiting?
Yeah, I think so. It feels funny to use that word established after the year that we've just had. But I get, so April this year will be my 3rd year anniversary here, and
wow.
I do often kind of say, like, when I arrived, I think there had been a couple of teachers doing 1 or 2 ad hoc classes here in the past, so there was maybe a small number of people on the database for yoga, but really we opened the studio doors and started sending out flyers. We had no client base, so it was just kind of like, okay, put flyers up in the local supermarkets and just, fingers crossed there's enough of a local community, or we can kind of build it around here. So it's been beautiful watching it go from 0 to regular weekly students that are growing in their practice and growing in curiosity. And I guess as a teacher, your practice is changing all the time as well, so what you're feeling to offer is changing. It can be very much an emphasis on the physical, and then it switches to much more of the meditation, or I'm a big fan of mantra, so sound and chanting. So they kind of just have to put up with whatever it is that's coming at them.
I think that's good. So you sort of change it up, because you do a couple of different yoga practices, don't you?
I sometimes kind of forget the different styles that I've accumulated over the years, or not styles, but I've taught prenatal yoga in the past. So I've taught mums, pregnant, expectant mums, and then mums and babes as well, that's a really beautiful journey to watch. Kind of a woman that's 16 weeks pregnant arriving, not kind of knowing anybody else in the same boat, and then going through the whole pregnancy journey, and then they come back with their little babe at maybe 3 months old, and there was probably a group of sort of 5 or 6 girls that all met in the pregnancy class, and I also became quite friendly with them, and that was just like, oh yeah, like they've got 2 or 3-year-olds, and we used to have a bit of fun omming to them once they came back to see if they remembered the sound from being in mama's belly. And then Scaravelli is the style of yoga that's really influenced me. So it's kind of hard to describe in a way, because it doesn't prescribe as much as other styles. In fact, it almost asks you to not prescribe anything too strongly, so that you can get more and more in touch with your own intuition. And I find that so beautiful, and many people, when they come to practice, they're ready for that. Like, they really are dying to feel that they can connect to their own intuition. And equally, others need a much more structured start. So it's just kind of reading who appears and where they're at in their journey. And again, maybe that wisdom of hindsight, I still meet lots of students that have got that like naysayer aspect that I used to have, like, oh, I'm not sure about trying this, or I can't do these posture, a kind of negative engagement, if you like, which we all have in some degrees. So not negative as in like it's bad and we should never go there, but just not free in terms of being able to explore, basically. So
I think you have to sort of embrace the negativity sometimes, don't you, in order to be positive? Is that right? Is
Yeah,
there
so I mean, that's why I would kind of use these words a bit with caution now, like positive and negative. Meditation work especially is really about kind of wrapping your arms out so broadly across every part of the spectrum, that you can welcome in like much bigger degrees of freedom and joy, and at the same time you can start to approach the parts where maybe it's like, oh, that's caused me guilt or shame or a lot of pain or hurt in the past, and we don't like to approach those emotions normally, but yeah, really important, I think, in a holistic practice to not see them as negative. And although that might make some like logical sense when you say it out loud, like, yes, I want to create space for that, and it can be really tricky in our bodies to breathe with those difficult emotions. So just making it a practice, and yeah, the kind of self-compassion, self-forgiveness that so often is the last place we get to.
Yeah,
Sort of,
I think it is, isn't it? And I mean, I think, practicing yoga at the moment is a really important thing to do. I mean, not that I know as much yoga as you do. I think I picked up a bit as well when I was last up with you.
oh, really?
So,
What did you pick up?
well, I did. I think the first time we met, I think we did. I did like a tree position, didn't I? Do you remember?
Oh, we should have taken photos as evidence.
Yeah, that's evidence. It's Ali, the tree. Of course, you would have a different name for it. I call it the tree.
Yeah, tree. Yeah, there's a tree pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool tree pose. Yeah.
But I think it's about being in touch with your physical and mental well-being and emotional well-being at the moment, isn't it, really, for lots of people? So surely practices in yoga should be really good.
There's so many different tools and practices in it, for sure, and I think it's really important to know that you can kind of access quite a few of the ingredients of yoga in short, like little 5 or 10 minute bursts, and not to feel that like, oh, I haven't done my big long hour practice, or I didn't make it to class this week. But you can still do like a hand on the heart, return to the kind of tender essence of our hearts, really. And I think that's been really on the surface this last 12 months, is that the outer world stuff is making us a little perhaps shaky and uncertain, which in the nervous system can appear as anxiety or worry, or like pressure in the head, or fluttering tightness in the solar plexus or across the heart. It could appear in different places physically, and as well as settling into an hour's practice, which is obviously lovely, to just be aware that simple gestures can go a long way.
So just placing your hand over your heart.
Placing your hand on your heart.
Oh, I like that. I'm doing that now.
Yeah. And there's, I don't know if you've heard of James Catto. He used to be in Faithless, I think. I'm probably getting the bands all wrong. Anyway, he came here last year. I think it was in February, before everything went what I'm going to call tits up.
Yeah.
And he came here and did a really beautiful evening talk and session with us, and he's got a good sort of cheeky sense of humor that runs through his work, even though his work is now very much about bringing us more towards intimacy with ourselves and more embodied patience, kindness, forgiveness, and so I won't forget, during that session he said, oh, you bring your hand to your heart, and then there's a very ancient indigenous sound that we can make when our hand is on our hearts like this, and it goes a bit like this. Oh.
Hang on, I've got to try that. Hang on. HL. Oh.
Very good, Ali. Yeah, I like it. So like the sound you make if a kid like scuffs their knee and you go, oh, come here, like, let me see. It's that kind of like, being that parent to ourselves. Oh, you can pout your bottom lip if you want. It makes it like a bit, yeah, like a kind of like, I feel sorry for myself sort of. It's it's tender. It's like bringing us back to that tenderness, because so often inside we might feel something, it's a bit vulnerable, it's maybe a bit confronting, and then the next thing that happens is something goes, no, just get on with it, or you can do better than this, or that that's not worthy of feeling, or it's not appropriate for this moment, and then we're kind of cutting ourselves up in different directions, and that's kind of possibly why we need so much knitting back together in terms of our mental and emotional state when we do arrive on the yoga mat. Is like, oh, what have I just been doing to myself during the day?
Yeah.
So we want to start to let our practices really seep out into each moment. Each moment, like the standing doing the dishes, the how pissed off or angry you get with your kids, with the partners, with the stuff you haven't kept up with,
and it's difficult at the moment, as we were saying before, it's a massive pressure, isn't it, that is on everybody, as far as working from home is one thing, but working from home and having to do lessons with your kids is homeschooling as well is it's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, I think I would have to maybe put myself in that environment to like fully see if I could put my own practices into play when that was going on. But it's also quite important the lens we bring in the first place to that scenario, and because it isn't how we're used to experiencing it, there can be this like, wow, this is so different, I wish it wasn't happening, which as a going in point is already sort of rejecting and saying no to the moment.
Yeah.
And so we can just be walking into a situation not having even experienced it with a certain amount of this shouldn't be happening. That's both a belief, but also feelings in our body like, oh, just I wish this wasn't happening. It could be tightness in the hands or the face or the jaw, and that's when the words can start getting a bit sharp with the people around us. So I think we've got to really witness what are we going in to these new changed situations with.
Having worked with lots of different people to do with well-being and keeping calm and practices, what do you suggest to people that they can just do? I mean, I love the heart thing. I think that's you're going to find me. I'm actually going to send you a WhatsApp voice message.
That one, yeah. Oh, please do. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Oh. Exactly.
That's me. So I mean that's a really good one. I mean, what do you suggest to people that they try and take so many minutes in the day to just try and unwind, give to themselves, I guess?
Yeah. It is an exchange. We are being asked to give a lot in different directions at the moment. And there can be various sort of life pressures moving. Yeah, there's just a fundamental acknowledgement that change is basically constant. Fundamental acknowledgement that you can find breath in each moment. Fundamental trust in like how much human bodies, not just the one that you're in right now, but human bodies that have existed over millennia, how much wisdom has been gathered up through human journeying. And because this in some way exists in our cells, so there's kind of a wisdom there that we might become aware of it in nature when we see some birds or we see some deer, and we become like sweetly touched by the kind of innocent presence of nature. But to really trust that there's already wisdom in your body, we don't necessarily have to know a whole heap of techniques. If I was going to offer a couple of techniques alongside the hand on heart and the sound, actually I haven't read the article yet, but I saw one of my colleagues posting the other day that there'd been some research done around vibrations and sounding and how that has a soothing effect on the nervous system. So you could go with the one, or just having the lips together and creating a little tonal humming bee sound can be very soothing for the chest. You can cover your eyes and do it like that. So a sense of It's a really lovely tool actually for any overwhelm, is just to agree for a moment that you're not going to take anything in from the outside world through your eyes or through your ears, and just sound to yourself. So it begins to switch up the vibration that's active in your body. And always just lengthen your out breath. Lengthen your out breath.
Yeah, which I don't think that we're not mindful, are we? I think, we're just not that mindful sometimes, is that we don't actually just sit there and think about our breathing, do we?
Yeah, and in a way, we to begin with, it can be like a conscious thing. You might have to set a little timer to say, do your little breathing thing in the morning, maybe do it again at lunchtime. I do kind of encourage people to find a rhythm with these practices that works for them, so that it isn't very prescriptive. And, there's a lot of esoteric or yoga practices that are steeped in hours and hours of discipline or practice every morning. And I think it can be easy to come into these practices and feel like I'm not doing it right. Like they become another set of tools that we think, well, I'm not very good at this. And then suddenly we're back in that place of not being very kind to ourselves. So to just like choose something that feels good, that's short, that's simple. And yeah, if you need that structure to begin with, putting the timer in there, or setting up a little accountability buddy Zoom call and perhaps doing it together for 5 minutes at some point to break up your day, probably with I've got cacao in here, so cacao has been a bit of a lifesaver for me the last year as well. Just some stuff that soothes is very, very important. The whole planet is looking for soothing at the moment, so
well, we are. I mean, on one hand, it's been good for the planet, all these lockdowns, because we're regenerating some of nature. I mean, not all of it, because we're still burning gas, and we're still going at a rate with climate change anyway. But it has sort of started to basically help the planet regenerate because of our new habits of being locked down. Yeah, connect with nature. You're right. I think is the key thing here is connecting more with nature and calmness. And also for a lot of people, it's you turn on the TV, or you turn, you look at your phone, you look at your laptop, wherever you look, you've got news popping up. I mean, especially, I do a weekly news podcast. So, I'm constantly taking in news. And if you didn't balance it out with that, you'd go crackers, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. But I bet you to some degree enjoy that process of digesting and understanding like what's happening in that. There'll be part of you that really enjoys the getting to know what's going on with the latest political crisis in the US or whatever it might be. And there'll be some of us that nervous system is perhaps, I've gone through periods of time where I've been doing a lot of inner work, and my nervous system has been too raw to look at any news or social media. It has felt like if I take that in at this moment in time, it's going to just flip me into another layer of worry about something. But when I return to being really grounded in my body, then I also am kind of like, do you know what? I'm going to enjoy reading about this bit of news this week, even if it's a, edgy bit of news, like what's going on at the moment in the States. Or, not a lot in the news in the last 12 months has been kind of delightful, let's say. So we all kind of need to deepen our grounding, holding those out breaths, just to be able to engage sometimes. And it's okay to get overwhelmed. It's again just finding the sweetness for I don't know, sometimes I think we get into a little sort of time warp bubble of 2020, 2021 and how awful everything's been. And at the moment I've set up quite a strong connection with some of my ancestors. So they're sitting on my temple in their images. And I look at them and I think, well, what was your life like? What did you have to go through? Like, what was it like to just have to look after however many children, 13 on my dad's mother's side. And the wars that happened through the 20th century, and way before that. There's so many like huge episodes of testing through history that I think for us to kind of root ourselves and stay present, that this is a very challenging time, of course, but we're kind of made for these times in a way. There's probably some ancestors sitting on our shoulders with with some wisdom as to how they got through, and how we can do the same.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, a lot of people have compared the pandemic, haven't they, to a world war, except, we're fighting an enemy that we can't see, obviously. But the point is here that, we might be sort of fighting an enemy that we can't see, but and it's tough, having to sit on a sofa. It's tough for a lot of people. I mean, I'm very proactive as well. I mean, I will let you into a secret. Sometimes I can't be sat on the sofa. My daughter thinks I've got the energy of a 14-year-old because I just can't go, oh, right, then I'll sit on the sofa and, I'm doing my bit kind of thing. So it's a very kind of difficult situation. And then, not just me, lots of people start moaning about lockdowns and, we can't get and be as proactive as we'd love to be. But in actual fact, that's not true, because we are proactive and we have things like I'm talking to you on Zoom now. I mean, they didn't have that in World War II. What did they do?
I mean, I think quite a nice inquiry is to just check in with ourselves, like how many times during the day are we disagreeing with how things are? Like how many moments do we find ourselves just disagreeing with what's happening in the moment, whether it's boredom or sadness or frustration? How many times do we find ourselves going, oh, not this now, I want something else, I want some other lovely experience that's much more kind of because life just doesn't work like that. And no,
it's true, it doesn't work like that. And it's interesting because I think this pandemic has really made us see that life does not work like that. Along with our sort of throwaway consumer lifestyle, we thought we could have a throwaway life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can't. And I mean, I'm only have a few moments where I think, oh, can I be more, because I instinctively knowing that in my role with doing a news podcast, that there are people on the front line working tirelessly 24/7. They are absolutely exhausted. They want a break. And they haven't got a chance in, so I think anybody sort of moaning right now needs to try and put that into perspective. God.
Yeah, there's always the two sides, like a kind of a little side whinge to get something off your chest. I'm also like a big fan of this, but to be aware if it becomes like a bigger bubble that's kind of taking over and moving into the whole space of your day, when you could be putting into the space of that day the gratitude, the blessings, the kind of pure like joy that, my God, I'm sitting on a sofa. I've got central heating bubbling away over there, kettle and water in the tap like that endlessly fills my belly with beautiful hot drinks, a fridge full of food. And also, there's many people in this country that won't have those basics. And I think, I think it's going to be important actually for us to inquire initially this, like, where am I not giving to myself, which is where a lot of us engage in these yoga practices. It's for self-care. But ultimately, we want that to make us useful in our communities. Because, again, I think this is really been brought to the forefront this last 12 months is, you know, it takes a village, and we live in community, and a lot of us long to live in community, but we've got these little, you know, were we as community minded before COVID, or were we still just kind of squirreling away, keeping our little lens closed and focusing on ourselves? So there's a whole, I think, you know, there's lots of threads we could pull out of COVID, like things that are going to see evolution in a beautiful way, and perhaps some more threads to pull that will still feel quite like, oh my God, that's quite hard to take. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that change. Yeah, rather than being on the surface with all those waves, it's to get like deeper and deeper and deeper and more present, more used to resting in our gratitude. These human lives, they're colorful, they're amazing, they're full of tenderness and sometimes helplessness, and
we should embrace it all, shouldn't we? Really, we should.
Yeah. And this is a practice, because it's not very mainstream to embrace it all, really. You know,
No.
Still very mainstream to seek for specific experiences, to package your life up like that, and to kind of say, right, I've made it. I've got the little bubble of things. I've somehow managed to not be affected by the other stuff. But no, the embrace of everything is so important.
It is. And do you know what? It's been great to talk to you this afternoon.
Great to see your smiling face, Ali. Very warming.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's so important just to connect anyway. You know, really, I do. And as I said, I think I feel incredibly grateful that we have things like this. You know, I could be in the same room as you. I know it's not quite the same.
Yeah. You know, you've got spanglier cushions than me. That's all right. That's fine.
I will bring one over. I will bring a sparkly cushion. I've got 3. You can have a sparkly cushion.
I'm not sure sparkles is my vibe until I get to the summer festival type period. They suit you. It's very a little glam in our January gloomy mornings, afternoons, whatever it is. Whatever it is.
Nice. You're a lot of natural, a lot of natural in our gloomy January days. So yeah, no, it's good to get outside. Anyway, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Might see you on a class perhaps on Zoom soon.
Yeah, I think you will, definitely.
All right, Ali, have a beautiful afternoon.
And you, bye. Look forward to chatting with my next guest on the Tea Time Sofa, this time next Saturday. In the meantime, if you would love to get in touch about having a chat with me, you can reach me on teatime@forthenow.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram on Tea Time with AM. Bye for now.